Hello and welcome back to the review for the movie Inception Part 9. So, I took a break because I've been recording these videos back to back to back to back to back. And I decided to refresh myself with the end of the movie so that I could actually tell you what actually happened directly. And then I was sitting there thinking, because I had some notes that I took, but the notes only went up until the end of part 8. So when I stopped watching the film, I said to myself, okay, now I can write the notes for the video. And I'm like, wait, I got time to record it. I'm going to just record it. So here we are. We picking up where we left off. The chemist, he was driving the van. The van spun out of control, and he was looking at the rest of them. He had to check and make sure everybody was okay. Went in first to go check on Sato. Sato, he's still bleeding from his wound, but he has to constantly check on him and make sure he's still alive. So he goes back and he looks outside to make sure. He's like, I don't know whether they did or not, but he ain't sticking around to make sure to get out and go check and see if the people that was trying to kill them are actually dead. He said, I got to do this kick now. So he turns on the music and puts it on, I don't know whether he puts it on Eames or he puts it on Arthur. But he puts the headphones on and the music starts to play, and it lets them all know, hey, you ain't got that much time, because I'm about to do this kick. That's the warning, the kick is coming. And he was like, Arthur's like, wait, he on the second level assorting certain things, and I think he was running down the steps. He's like, wait, that kick's too soon, because he should have had more time. Meanwhile, they just getting themselves together to infiltrate the fortress that Fisher is in. And he's like, wait, that's the music for the kick. It's too soon. And he said to, what is her name? Anastasia. Anastasia actually isn't what her name was. It was a weird name. And it was something like Anastasia, but it was really weird. So what ends up happening is he's talking to her, and he said, that kick's too soon. And he's like, now we're going to have to determine what we're going to do now. And they all can hear it, because Arthur made it so when he heard it, they heard it. Because he put the headphones on Eames, and somehow by putting them on Eames, everybody could hear it. How that works, I don't know. But Cobb is saying it's too soon, and she's like, if it's too soon, what does that mean? He said that means that if he's taking the vehicle over the bridge, that means Arthur only has a few minutes to get everyone ready for the kick on level 2. And she said, how much time does that leave us? He's like, he got about 3 minutes, which gives us less than an hour to do what we need to do here. She's like, seriously? He said, I gotta get to Eames. Meanwhile, Eames is on a snow sled, electrics, those snow skis. Not actual skis, but the snow ski sleigh looking thing that's electric. He's going over the snowy terrain in one of them. Now, Eames, he already heard it. He heard the kick too. And he knows as well they ain't got time like that. So, he gets to his location and messages them through the walkie-talkie. He's like, what in the world's going on? He's like, the kick is about to happen. And he said, well, how much time do they give us? It's like, if 5 minutes is 1 hour, 3 minutes is like a little bit over 30 minutes. Like, it's like somewhere close to 40, I'd say. 42 minutes. So they got about 42 minutes to complete the mission before the kicks gonna knock them out of that environment. So they position themselves, go where they said they was originally gonna go. Eames and Sato were going up the building. And meanwhile, Cobb and Anastasia, we're going to keep calling her Anastasia because I can't remember what her name was. Cobb and Anastasia went into the adjacent building to have a vantage point for using their guns to shoot at the fortress. And keeping an eye on monitoring. But while they sitting there monitoring, the Feaster Resistance shows up. Maul. They're like, oh no. And Anastasia says, she gonna ruin this whole thing. You better shoot her. He's like, I can't shoot her. Because how do I know that she's not real? Because you know that she did in reality. She's telling him, you do know that she a projection. Shoot her. And he's all confused. So while he's debating, Maul shoots Fisher. And Fisher's dying. So this causes another problem. Now, after Maul shoots Fisher, he gets the brilliant idea, let me shoot her now. If I didn't know any better, I would think that he was trying to sabotage each mission himself on purpose. Because he had the perfect ability to knock her out before she shot Fisher. And I'm only pausing because I had a thought momentarily. Oh, well, let's go with it. Sabotage. This is something that crossed my mind a little bit earlier, but I didn't talk about it because I wanted to give y'all more movie and not explanation. But I'm hearing something in relation to God ordained spouses. Jesus, give me the words if this is what you want me to say. If you don't want me to say it, I can keep on going. Sabotage. I saw a ministry word, and I think I've spoken to this effect a while ago. It was about 3 years ago. I saw this word by the apostle I listened to. And he did a in-depth teaching breaking down the 7 levels of hindrance that comes. If you want me to link it, I can, okay? I can link the videos because I think I have it hidden somewhere in one of my other accounts. But in it, he talks about a level of sabotage we have. You know, sabotage is something that is in relation to you're subconsciously doing something that is preventing you from getting the result you actually want. Sabotage is, how do I put this? Cobb is part of the mission. Cobb comes in and he wants freedom. Okay? He wants to go home. Yes? But the spirit of sabotage comes in every time Maul shows up to sabotage the mission. This is about to get a little bit deeper than I thought it was. Some of y'all are dealing with a spirit of sabotage. There are a lot of things that are supposed to come to fruition between now and the end of the year. And y'all dealing with a spirit of sabotage. But you're masquerading that spirit, as I'm being practical, I'm thinking practically, I'm preparing for the worst. If it don't happen, so on and so forth. When God's been telling you, I'm telling you this is going to happen. But sabotage will say, it ain't happened all this time. Every time I believed for it to happen previously, it did not happen. Is it going to happen now? Sabotage will say, no, it ain't going to happen now. But without saying, no, it ain't going to happen now, it will choose to settle Let's step into the kingdom marriage situation. We're going to use Cobb and Maul as our representatives. Cobb is the husband. Maul, we're going to call her the counterfeit for story's sake. Cobb, if he's the God-ordained spouse, he would be operating in a spirit of sabotage, holding on to something that he knew he was supposed to been let go. Maul been dead for a while now. He can't hold on to her because she been dead, which speaks to the fact that some of your God-ordained spouses were holding on to those relationships with them counterfeits. A lot of y'all was just blaming the counterfeit for holding on to him. What if he was holding on to them? Because he knew that if he let them go, that means he'd have to come to you. And with coming to you, there is a level of, what's the word? A responsibility he'd have to take for himself that he wasn't ready to take. So he would hold on to her no matter how much she was hurting, abusing, cutting him, sabotaging his situations. Because letting her go would mean facing a level of truth about himself. We getting there. That he wasn't ready to face. Are we paying attention? In some cases, these men were holding on to them counterfeits when they knew they should have been let them go. They did let them go. And they had to forgive themselves for it. But they tried to convince themselves that what they had with that counterfeit was real. Even when God was trying to desperately knock them over the head, like he's been knocking us over the head with our names or his name. To you and to him, he's been seeing your name and seeing constant reminders that you the one. But the spirit of sabotage within him was making him allow the mistake. He had full enough time to shoot Maul before she shot Fisher. He didn't do it. Some of them have been stalling. God done gave him the green light to come. Some of them, it was a scenario where they had to come to themselves and admit to themselves. And we've talked about this in Sleeping Beauty. We've talked about this in, it was another film that I did, when they finally had to face the counterfeit and vanquish him. But what if they were the one that was sabotaging it because they were delaying it? Just Emily did a word talking about this last month. Last month? It might have been 2 months ago. But she did a word talking about that. And it brought a level of clarity. Some of them knew what they were doing. But they would have had to face a part of themselves they weren't ready to face. I'm gonna dig into that in a moment. I'm gonna go back to the story. So, Fisher now been shot. They manage to head back over. While they're heading over, what is it? Anastasia says that they gotta move quickly. And how much time they got. Now, they had an hour, remember? I think it was 36 minutes. And they said, what happens if we gotta rush through this maze? Well, if we gotta rush through the maze, she created a failsafe that they could just drop through the maze. Okay? That labyrinth that she created. And he said, okay, what is it? She said, I'm not sure I should tell you because what if Maul finds out? He said, I need to know. I don't need you to give, he didn't need schematics. He didn't know, I need to know how it went. He just said, what is it? She said, okay, it's the air ducts. With that being said, she shifted it so that now the staircases in level 2 turned into air ducts. While Arthur was in the middle of his fight sequence where he was fighting and tumbling, he now was on staircases of air ducts. They're no longer stairs. They are smooth air ducts that you can just fall through. So now they managed to find their way back on. They're on level 3. And they all find themselves in the room. And Fisher's dead. So they're like, what we gonna do now? Fisher dead. And it's like, it's over. We screwed up. And this is Cobb's viewpoint. We done screwed up. It's over. We stuck. We gonna all end up in limbo. Let me tell you something about this. Cobb wanted to go to limbo. Subconsciously, he wanted to go to limbo. Because when you think about it, everything led to him always ending up sabotaging the mission. And at the end of the mission being sabotaged to a degree, he's always kind of like, oh, well, I guess that didn't work. Oh, I guess we failed the mission. Oh. So he's like, man, we screwed up. He's like, oh, so now we all gonna go to limbo now? And Anastasia said, no, we can fix this. And Aim said, what are you talking about? How are we gonna fix this? Sato's sitting over on the side, still bleeding internally. She says, all we need to do is find Fisher in limbo, give him the kick in limbo to bring him back to this level, and finish it. So what they do is set up to put Fisher on a defibrillator, which would be the kick. But they still needed to go down to find him. And Cobb knows what limbo looks like. So he goes with Anastasia into limbo. Meanwhile, Eames and Sato stay to fight off the missionaries. So when they go down into limbo, they end up in what looks to be a demolishing city. She says, this is limbo? He said, it's what's left of what it used to be. See, one might believe that Cobb was actually releasing himself from the guilt of what he did because he was allowing the limbo version to destruct. Okay? Of the reality him and Maul had. Okay? Down there in limbo. But they're walking through. It's similar to what the Paris structure looked like. But it is all relevant places to him and Maul. The apartment complex they grew up in. The place she grew up in. The first apartment they moved into. The apartment that first home they got after moving out of that apartment. The first house they got when their first child was born. And these were the homes that lived upon that street. And he was just going through each different architectural place and design, right? So, they're walking through that, and she said, this is amazing. He said, we were down here. All we had was time. Because they were down there equivalently 50 years. Can you imagine being in a reality that you have the ability to create every aspect of, and then be back in regular reality with the memory of the reality that you were in? Think about it. What if you had the ability to go to heaven and stay there for 50 years? You could create the entire environment. It's your utopia. It's your perfect world. And then God said, I'm going to send you back. Not only am I going to send you back, I'm going to let you remember what it was like up here while you down there in that hellish place. That's what it was like. Come on. So, they're walking through, and as they're walking through, they have to get to the apartment building. And they were thinking, oh, we're going to go to the apartment that they had before. No. He says this apartment is the apartment that they wanted to move into, but they never had the ability to actually get things together to be able to have a apartment in a high rise that was much like this one. So they take the elevator up to the apartment, which to me looks darn near like the house that he and his wife was living in with the kids anyway. Okay? So they come in the door. He's got the gun. He walks in and sees Maul sitting at the table. She's got 3 knives, much like she had been in one of his memories after she came back. Wrong. See, when she initially came back, she couldn't let go of what life they had in limbo. Everything was perfect there. But the only problem, it was only the two of them. There was no other people, no interactions, just them and their children, which were projections that he had allowed them to have created to make it more comfortable for her to be there for the amount of time in which they needed to be there. So he sits down with her and she said, "Are you going to stay with me?" He said, "You know I cannot do that." He said, "Why?" She's like, "Why are you still fighting this?" And they're having a full-on discussion. Meanwhile, Anastasia is standing over off to the side while they're having this full-on discussion, but interjecting every once in a while to be like, "Wait, what does she mean? Wait, what?" What she mean by when she said that? Meanwhile, you begin to figure out as they are talking that she pretty much gives you a whole bunch of subtext of saying, "Oh, you should come and you should be here with me, and you know limbo is better, and you know that this is our reality and that wasn't our reality, and you should stay with me," and it's a whole big thing. I'm gonna take 10 seconds to say this is probably the foolishness that the counterfeit was pulling on your god ordained spouse. You know that that's not reality, especially if the counterfeit managed to figure out who you was. You know that she don't really want you. You know. Some of them were probably flaunting you over them. You know that's not reality. You know that's. How do you know that person even wants you? I'm the only person that wants you. I just thought I'd throw that in there. Telling this to your god ordained spouse. Making them doubt that you would even want to be in a relationship with them. So, she tries to get him to look at the projections of the children. He won't look at them. He said, "Those are not our children. Our children are up in the actual reality." She's like, "What are you talking about? This is our reality." And he starts to go a little deeper in the story, and he starts to explain. You see, I did have Inception, but the first time I performed Inception, I did it on her. I'm going to leave you with that. Till next part. Bye-bye.